Sequoia National Park was the second established and the first to protect a living organism, the giant sequoia trees, which by the time of this protection in September of 1890 had already started to be ravaged by logging. Just one sequoia tree could produce enough wood to build 120 average-sized homes. An ominous reminder of this can be found in the Big Stump Grove in Kings Canyon National Park, but that's a story for another time. To get the lay of the land, the park is located in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. The area is actually home to two national parks, the other being Kings Canyon. Although very different in history and topography, they are interwoven and together provide a landscape that cannot be found outside of the Sierras. So the first thing I want to talk about before we even get started into our wandering is really what is a sequoia tree, because so many people confuse the giant sequoias with the California redwoods,
yeah.
And they could not be more different. The sequoia tree only grows, and this is phenomenal when you think about it, only grows in the Sierras in California, in the whole world. It's the only place. That's the only place they grow.
Wow.
They grow in an elevation between 5,000 and 7,000 feet. And the reason why they do so well in the Sierras is because of the dryness of the mountain air, the moisture provided by the winter snowfall, and I have to say, and it's unfortunate, but over time the sequoias will be gone because climate is changing and the conditions in the Sierras are changing as well. And they're already starting to see the signs of that in Sequoia National Park. So now, is this going to happen in our lifetime? No. It's not going to happen in our lifetime, but it will eventually happen. So anyway, the thing about that makes sequoia trees unique is they are the largest living thing on Earth. And they are phenomenally big. If you have not seen,
do you mean like tall and?
It's actually that's why people get redwoods and sequoias confused. The redwood tree is the tallest tree, and they can get up to 250 feet tall. Now, sequoia trees are very tall as well and can get well up into that range of height. But it's the actual diameter of the tree that is so phenomenal. There are some trees like the General Sherman tree, which you could probably line up 50 or more people arm to arm, and you still wouldn't reach all the way around the tree. And that, if you haven't seen them, is a mind-boggling thing. I mean, think about that. Look out into your yard at any tree that you see anywhere. Typically you can wrap your arm around a tree. But to put that many people and still not be able to wrap your arm around a tree is actually pretty darn phenomenal. Sequoia trees are, to me, life-changing. When you see one, it will forever change the way you look at trees, and just really just nature and how just the magnificence of them is absolutely incredible. They're a very different thing, and they're very, very unique. So with that knowledge, being up there into the giant forest, which is just one of the groves of redwoods in the Sierras. There are many. The Sequoia National Park hosts the largest protected area of sequoia groves, but you can also find sequoias in Kings Canyon. There's a sequoia grove, the Mariposa Grove, in Yosemite National Park, and then there are also a couple sequoia groves just in the Sierras, but not technically in protected national park area, but they are protected state parks. I could digress and talk about sequoia trees forever, because I'm just telling you, there's something to me that's kind of mystical and magical and spiritual just to touch those things. Because think about this too. Those trees are up to 2,500 years old.
Wow.
They can live longer than 3,000 years. And I mean, it's just hard to really wrap your mind around what one of those trees has been through in their lifetime. And it's funny, when you are walking through the forest, a full-grown sequoia certainly is gigantic. It has its, what it is. They're harder to identify when they are smaller. And they do look a little bit more like redwoods, quite frankly. Okay. But you see these smaller sequoia trees that are growing there, and you can just look at that and say, hey, you know what this tree is going to see in the next 3,000 years, should they live that long, is a whole nother phenomenal story that they're going to have to tell. So it's the sequoias are fantastic.
Awesome.
In Sequoia National Park,
I love trees.
hashtag you do love trees. Our favorite place in Sequoia National Park to wander is actually in an area called the Giant Forest. And it is where the largest single collection of sequoia trees are located in the world. And there are so many different trails and places to wander throughout there. And often when my wife and I go up there, we'll just wander the area. We'll just get up in the morning, have our breakfast, pack our bags with some lunch and liquid libations of all kinds, by the way, and just get out there and just start walking. And you just walk until you're tired of walking and then turn around and walk back, quite frankly. Elevation gains in this area can be anywhere between, up to maybe, 500 feet, maybe an elevation gain, but really 200 feet in elevation gain, throughout the entire forest. Is the kind of the iconic thing at the Congress Trail is the General Sherman tree, which is one of the largest trees on record, and is really the kind of the most popular thing in that area. So the parking area will get full very, very quickly in the summertime. The Congress Trail, although highly trafficked, once again, like anything, once you get away from the main tourist spot, you're not going to run into as many people. So even during the summer, not that many people will be on that trail. Now in the wintertime, it's a completely different thing. That's really what I want to talk about today, is wintertime in Sequoia, because it is even more magical.
I was going to say, I bet it's gorgeous. I see the photos, so I know it's gorgeous.
It really is. Now, in full disclosure about what's happening in 2018, there hasn't been a lot of snow in the Sierras. So, as a matter of fact, I checked before we came on today, and then there is still some snow in the Giant Forest, but it's melting quickly. So just keep watching, the weather to see what's going to happen as far as snow. The snows will come. If you live in the area or are going to be in the area, it's a fantastic time to go to Sequoia, because there's going to be far less people, and what you're going to see is really going to be even more amazing. So the Congress Trail in the wintertime, and I'm talking most years, is fully packed with snow. Now, there are enough people that travel the Congress Trail even in the wintertime that there is a clear path that you can take, so you don't have to worry about getting out there and getting stranded out in the snow somewhere. So, last year, and two separate occasions, had the opportunity to be up there to do some snowshoeing in the Congress Trail. And I have to tell you, once again, it was remarkable. One time when we did it, it was actually snowing while we were in there, and to see the snow just slowly drift down, through these, gigantic trees, and the juxtaposition of the white snow and these really beautiful red barked sequoia trees is phenomenal. And it's, just so quiet, and hearing the snowfall, and it's an incredible experience. But the Congress Trail itself is a great trail, because you will pass so many of the named trees in the area. Now, I already mentioned the General Sherman tree, but so many trees in the park have been named. Most of them in a historical manner, after, once again, the people that actually created the park in the first place. So there is a tree called the President's Tree that you'll pass. And depending upon your political affiliation, you can love that tree or not so much. But I'll just leave it at that on that one. But there's a lot of trees in the area that are named for presidents and the actual Congress itself. So there is a set of trees called the House, which is a large grouping of gigantic sequoia trees that represents the House of Representatives. And our personal favorite is called the Senate. Are there 100 trees there? Not in that particular stand of sequoias, but it certainly represents what the Senate is all about. And it's crazy when you think about these gigantic trees with such large diameters, all being so close together, and you can actually, kind of walk off the trail a little bit and walk into this grove of trees where you're almost in the chamber. That's what I like to think about when I'm there. You're like in the Senate chamber. And here are all of these gigantic senators standing around you. And to look up into this area where you can see the sunlight or snow sometimes, falling through these trees, it is phenomenal. It is, and I know I've already probably overused that word already in this
I'm there
in this short amount of time, but it is absolutely crazy when you're standing in there just to think of the size and the breadth of what you're actually standing in. So the Synod is one of our favorite stands of these giant sequoias. But as you walk through this trail, you're going to come across it is absolutely mind-blowing how many sequoias are in this particular area. So, if you haven't seen a sequoia when you drive into the park, you will be amazed by them. But when you get into the actual grove and stands of these trees, it will blow your mind. The trail's beautiful because there are little creeks and brooks that flow through there all year round, more so in the spring, obviously when the snow is melting, but you'll get that all the way into the summertime. But in the wintertime, those things are still flowing too, and you will find areas of the snow where you'll see like a little hole, and when you look down into there, you'll actually see water flowing even underneath the snow, which can be a little disheartening because you're like, I hope I'm on the freaking trail or I'm going to be. And there were a couple times, I got to tell you, when we were snowshoeing through here this last year, where you were thinking, I hope we're actually on the trail.
Dive into the water.
Right. The good thing about Sequoia, and they do plan for you to do and encourage you to get out there in snowshoes or even to do a little cross-country skiing in the area. If you look high into the trees, you will see little medallions that mark the trail. So you can actually follow the trail by just looking at up. It's above eyesight, but probably another 5-6 foot above your eyesight. You'll see little medallions, and they're either rectangular triangles or circles, which identify which trail you're on. But you'll know that you're actually on the trail, so you can get back to where you're going. In the summertime, when you're on the Congress Trail, there are different little shortcuts where you don't have to do the entire 3 miles. In the wintertime, when it's less traffic, you won't know where those little shortcuts are. So if you're going to get out there in snowshoe, you better plan on either doing the full 3-mile loop or going to a point and then turn around and then coming back to the General Sherman Tree, which is kind of the beginning of the route. So you can learn all about this particular adventure on our website, wanderingbunnotlost.com, or you get great information, of course, on the National Park website as well.
Matt, a couple questions. Can you rent snowshoes in the park? You were mentioning doing some snowshoeing the last time you visited.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple places to rent snowshoes. You should check it out. When you get up there, the visitor center at Lodgepole, which is near the giant forest, rent snowshoes, and they also rent snowshoes at the Wixachi Lodge. Now, depending upon how many people are there and what's going on as far as the rentals, sometimes they sell out in one place or the other, so that they can communicate back and forth. But those are your 2 locations that you want to check first.
And speaking of that, what is the lodging and dining situation? What do you recommend for people?
Yeah, really, in that area of Sequoia, there really is only one place to stay, and that is the Wixachi Lodge. It's probably about maybe 3 miles from the General Sherman Tree or Giant Forest, about 2 miles from Lodgepole. Lodgepole is the camping area there, or the most popular camping area there, where the visitor center is located. In the wintertime, when there's snow on the ground, obviously it's not open; it's closed completely. So the Wixachi is really your option for that. As far as dining goes, they have actually a really good chef and a really good dining room at the Wixachi that serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Depending upon the time of year, the time of the season you're going, like if you're going on a holiday weekend, it's going to be busier, obviously, so you might want to make reservations for that, but there's a lot of options there. And then if the visitor center is open, sometimes it's not, depending upon the snowfall, there is a market in there where you can get a lot of, just snacks and kind of fast type food there. But in the wintertime, your options in the park go way down.
So bring your supplies. Okay. And what about for those of us that are unfamiliar with where Sequoia National Park actually is? What's the easiest way to get there?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. If we're talking about a full-blown winter scenario, the only way you're going to be able to get into Sequoia is from the south entrance. There's really 2 entrances. There's US Route 180 out of Fresno that goes up into the Kings Canyon, or the north entrance, or the 198, which goes out of Visalia off of Route 99, which is about maybe an hour or so south of Fresno, which will get you in through 3 Rivers into the south entrance of the park.
Okay. And then what about winter driving? Do you need chains? I guess it depends on what's going on with the weather, but what's the recommendation there?
Once again, any time in the winter, because the conditions can change so quickly, you always have to carry chains. As a matter of fact, they will grill you before you actually enter the park at the entrance station, whether or not you have chains or not. Let me tell you something, because I've been there many times in the wintertime. You don't want to lie about that. If you don't have chains, do not go in there, because it will not be pretty. Okay. But if, for example, the last time we were there, it was really, really, the snowpack was really high, and they were turning away cars left and right at the main entrance that didn't have chains. You have to get a pretty good way up the mountain into the park before there is a place in the road that's wide enough, depending upon the situation, you won't have to put your chains on to keep the roads well plowed. But the weather is, it can change it at a moment.
Unpredictable, yeah. Last question. What, for a point of reference, from, let's say, the LA area, what kind of drive time are we talking about?
I would say you're looking at probably about 4 hours to get there from Los Angeles, maybe a little bit more. It depends on traffic. It depends on the weather. It depends on a lot of things. And also, I got to tell you, like we always talk about, you're going to probably want to stop more than once when you get into the mountains. There's so many things to see in the foothills along the Sequoia River before you even get up into Sequoia National Park.
Enjoy the journey.
There's a lot. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to see there, and you need to enjoy the journey along the way.
Well, I'm ready to
I know.
Sequoia National Park.
So when we going?
We're going in June. We've already scheduled the date. We actually just kind of firmed it up before we got on this podcast today, because it has been on my list forever, and I'm so excited to go with the Emersons as my guides and help them get to learn everything, as he just mentioned, on this awesome tips today. I can't wait.
You know what? I can't wait.
I don't even think I understand what it's. I think you're right when you say you have no idea what it's like until you see it. The pictures do. It's a classic. The pictures do not do it justice.
No, and I cannot wait to see your face. You're going to die. I'm not even kidding you. You really are.
This item checked.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. It should be on by the way, people, this should be on everyone's bucket list. Yep. You need to see a giant sequoia. It is phenomenal.
So we'll come back.
I need to say phenomenal once again.
Later in June or July, I think we'll come back and talk a little bit about Sequoia in the summer. Yeah, we can maybe update our trip together and see what we discovered when we were wandering Sequoia.
That's right. So I hope we gave you a little insight into what you can do in Sequoia in the wintertime. Once again, you can get more information about that at wanderingbunnotlost.com. That'll be in our show notes on WBNLpodcast.com. Or you can go to the National Park website as well. And remember, everybody, be forever wandering but not lost.
We'll see you in the next episode.